In the year 2026, a team of archaeologists discovers a device that creates wormholes leading them to a dead city on Mars. The device, called the Ark, has unknown origins, and after 20 years of study, the scientists stationed on the Red Planet at the Oldaway Research Facility still have no idea what happened to its creators. In the year 2046, we see some of these same scientists being pulled into the darkness by an invisible monster. Unwilling to wait for his colleague, now unarmed, the terrified Dr. Carmack transmits a warning before the sealed doors behind him are torn open again. On Earth, the responsible company recruits the hardened veteran Sarge, who assembles an 8-man rapid response team called Hellfighters with orders to search and destroy. Duke complains as they were about to go on vacation but is ordered to prepare along with the others, except for Reaper, whom Sarge asks to stay behind as his twin sister is a scientist on Mars he hasn't seen in 10 years. This is also the reason he chooses to accompany them, as his parents were also scientists and were killed during a previous excavation on the Red Planet. The Hellfighters mainly consist of nicknames, with Duke's brother and Sarge's best friend, Destroyer, a heavy weapons lover. The group's technical specialist, Mac, whose real name is too long for anyone to pronounce. The religious Goat, who is very welcome during these visits to Hell but also insanely devout to the point of cutting a cross into himself when he utters the Lord's name in vain. And the last regular Hellfighters, the addict Portman, who is good at being the first to advance. Kid is on his first mission with the team and feels insulted by his nickname and terrified at the idea of crossing the Ark for the first time. On the helicopter ride, they watch Carmack's transmission about a threat and the possibility of survivors. Then they arrive at a helipad in the middle of the Nevada desert that houses a hidden elevator. The Hellfighters descend deep underground and are greeted at the entrance by a scientist who takes them to the Arkansas. The workers are ordered to quarantine the facility for 8 hours to prevent anything from passing to the surface. The Ark is activated, and a sphere rises from the core, which Reaper enters first, and it shoots the entire team through space to the Red Planet. Upon arriving at the mirrored facility, they are greeted by an initial victim of the Ark system named Pinky, who during an earlier test had his legs severed and sent to another galaxy. He monitors the team in the first person from a security desk near the entrance while the citizens of Oldaway are informed of the quarantine and instructed to remain calm. They are greeted by Reaper's sister, Samantha Grimm, who explains that their primary mission is to recover research for the Union Aerospace Corporation. She informs them that Carmack's lab had only 6 scientists inside but was also used for weapon research and testing. Upon entering, they plan to split into teams of 2, while Samantha seals everyone inside. Veterans Portman and Goat are sent to the genetics lab and find no survivors but many biological products and an adjacent room containing an electrified containment cell. Duke and Sarge check the weapons lab and find a BFG plasma gun but are unable to access it as they lack special access. Reaper is tasked with protecting his sister while she saves as much information as possible from the computers and sees that she has discovered alien remains at the excavation site where their parents died. The humanoid Lucy and her son contain a 24th chromosome, making them very strong, intelligent, and immune to disease, and they could heal wounds almost instantly, although this was a genetic modification that the scientists here were trying to study. The remains are enough evidence for Reaper that the entire species was exterminated, as it appears the mother was protecting her son from an assailant. Kid and Destroyer are sent to look for Carmack's office but find a bloody lab coat along the way. When Goat and Portman join them inside the destroyed doors, they open fire on the first fast-moving entity they see, but it escapes. The whole team converges to discover it is Cormac, and he is holding the woman's severed arm. He has gone insane to the point of tearing off his own ear when approached, which Portman details to disturb Kid and then calms him down with some mint tablets. The two then locate a naked woman and believe they are hallucinating until she reveals herself to be feral, so they take her down. She is the owner of Carmack's third arm and was using his blood to write a message for the team. Samantha and Duke take the scientist back to the lab in the main facility, entering through a nanowall that becomes completely solid when a button is pressed. They try to sedate Carmack with the help of Dr. Jenna as he begs them to shut everything down, saying there is something inside. Goat does a second sweep with Reaper and finds all the test animals dead after being alive just minutes earlier. A second infected scientist they find feeding on the animals attacks them, so they kill him. At this point, Carmack starts to degrade into something different when a second target is spotted in genetics and runs into the sewers. After entering, the team locates another lab coat belonging to Jenna's husband, which is why she hasn't left yet. The team splits up and begins searching the tunnels when Reaper catches a glimpse of the creature, but Kid causes him to lose contact. It then goes after Goat, whose flashlight goes out at the worst moment, and it attaches to his neck. The imp lashes its tongue at Goat before going after Reaper, but it is repelled and taken down with just a few shots. The Hellfighters bring the injured soldier back to the main lab for Samantha to try to save him and discover that earlier, Carmack had escaped his restraints and fled to the uninfected facility. Demanding to know what's really going on, Sarge is informed by Samantha that she has no idea and has never seen anything like them. As tensions rise, Reaper realizes it wasn't the same one they shot in genetics. All this time, Mac has kept the Ark in quarantine and starts evacuating the entire population back to Earth, giving Pinky a gun and locking him inside the room to guard it. The Hellfighters try to secure the only other entrance located at the archaeological dig site. While searching for the door, Reaper has flashbacks as it's the place where his parents were killed when they encounter another deceased scientist who was trying to suffocate himself on the surface rather than let the demons get him. Suddenly, Mac's head is ripped off without anyone seeing the attacker, except Reaper, who leads the team in a chase back to the facility. Sarge warns Pinky to destroy the reactor with a grenade if anything tries to come back to Earth, then leaves to use the doctor's severed hand to gain access to the BFG. While researching the imp, Duke and Samantha begin to bond as they discuss Destroyer being Duke's only family. When he is sent to look for a bone saw, the power fails, and Samantha runs through the corridors terrified as no one responds to her calls. It turns out to be just a distraction as both are fine. When they are on their way back to the lab, the power fails again, and suddenly another imp emerges from the shadows to attack Duke. He manages to defend himself long enough to get back through the nano wall, and Samantha traps the creature halfway through. She determines from the appendix removed from neighboring creatures that it was once human. As Goat resurrects behind them and begins smashing his head into the unbreakable glass, the human side of him knew he was turning into one of those demons, so he stops it by destroying his brain. Portman leaves Destroyer alone in genetics and goes to the bathroom at the worst possible moment. Discovering the electrified prison, Destroyer is attacked by the larger creature and thrown into the cell below. The Hell Knight is patient zero for all the other imps in the facility and fights the elite soldier, who offers more resistance than the demon expected. Destroyer manages to pin it against the wall with a fallen pipe and tries to escape the cell by a chain, but the monster breaks free and pulls the loose chain, causing him to fall to his death. The creature then goes after Portman while he's in the bathroom, entering through the ceiling and tossing him around the stall while Pinky watches and laughs. His teammates arrive too late and start shooting as Sarge tests his new plasma-powered toy, destroying half the bathroom and likely finishing Portman if he wasn't already dead. The remaining Hellfighters regroup back at Samantha's lab, where she determines that the demons are actually just humans altered by the addition of the Martian chromosome, with the imp trapped in the wall being Carmack through his missing ear. Sarge shoots Carmack and demands to see her research, where they watch a recording to discover that Carmack deliberately injected the chromosome into a multiple murderer named Curtis. Once transformed into a Hell Knight, he used part of the human genome to determine if they were genetically evil, turning them into an imp if they were or simply killing them if they weren't. Like Destroyer, whose DNA seemed to be ignored by the tongues but goes wild by the evil scientist Carmack. The original alien society, like Lucy and her son, must have been composed entirely of good people, but that clearly didn't last forever. At this point, Pinky warns the surviving squad that the Hell Monster is trying to reach the Arkansas. The Hellfighters rush back but arrive too late, finding that instead of using the grenade, Pinky simply fled back to Earth, allowing the demon to follow. On Earth, the team finds the UAC facility filled with the bodies of 85 scientists and begins executing anyone alive to prevent the infection spread. Sarge and Kid encounter a room full of infected people feeding on some scientists, so using the machine gun, Sarge kills everyone in front of him. The brothers teleport back to Earth and alert the out-of-control Sarge that some infected people aren't evil and won't turn into monsters, and he is murdering wounded civilians. As the Hellfighters regroup, Pinky reappears still uninfected, having hidden the entire time while the Hell Monster killed people around him. Despite Samantha telling him he wasn't infected, Sarge is about to kill him, which is understandable after he didn't use the grenade causing all this when Kid enters after locating a large group of uninfected people, including Jenna. He told them to stay put but has to refuse his superior's orders to exterminate them, telling him to go to hell. So, Sarge shoots him dead as that is the punishment for insubordinate insurrection. Pinky draws his pistol on Sarge, not intending to be killed by a madman, but the Hell monster grabs him and uses him as a weapon against the others before escaping down the hallway with another potential. The Hellfighters chase them through a nano wall but are ambushed by a horde of infected and forced to flee back through it. Sarge breaks the button, so the wall gets stuck in a constant state of flux between its solid and vulnerable state, with a shot ricocheting and hitting Reaper in the abdomen. Suddenly, Duke is grabbed by the creature through a grate in the floor and killed in front of Samantha as he's pulled through it. Sarge, distracted by the sight, is grabbed and dragged through the door away by the monsters. Now apparently only the two siblings are left alive, so they flee to a safe location. Reaper is badly wounded and bleeding heavily, so Samantha injects her brother with the 24th chromosome to save his life, which he initially refuses, claiming to have done bad things working for Sarge, but she is convinced he is a good person. Instead of turning into a monster, Reaper wakes up in first-person view with his wounds now fully healed. His sister is now missing, so with his new reflexes, he takes down a series of enemies throughout the facility in search of her, including imps who begin to flee in terror, and even other monsters who are dealt with just as brutally. The beast that crossed the portal after Pinky on the Red Planet appears with a chainsaw and charges at Reaper, who shoots off the enemy's hand but is knocked down in the process. Using an explosive, he takes down the Hell monster, disintegrating it completely. Demon Pinky reappears, dragging his wheelchair behind him and looking more like a Martian dog. Using the chainsaw, the hero battles the bionic Hell dog, cutting pieces off him while being briefly knocked out but regaining control with Pinky biting him. Eventually, Reaper hits a critical point with the chainsaw and takes down the demon dog Pinky with his rifle. After the fierce fight, Reaper reaches the facility's exit and finds Samantha lying on the floor. Sarge suddenly appears, having survived the attack using his BFG but was infected and has only a few minutes before transforming. He waited for the lockdown to end to use the elevator to reach the surface and claims to have killed Jenna and all the other remaining survivors. With Reaper reluctant to let him spread the infection, Sarge fires his last plasma ball, narrowly missing, and the two engage. Sarge thinks he has the upper hand and tries to surprise Reaper, but finds he is not the only one with superpowers, though he is the only one currently mutating. After being thrown around, Reaper uses metal bars to bind Sarge and nearly chokes him, but is overpowered by the monstrous man who wraps the iron bars in his hand. After holding out for so long, Reaper starts to take a beating and has the bar driven through his hand, being pinned by the transforming Sarge. With no other option, he connects their hands together with it to prevent his escape, activates the arc, and then throws him into the wormhole, tearing his hand in the process. Sarge is sent through space, landing in the Mars facility. Then the last Hellfighter, Reaper, instantly heals and then throws a grenade through the portal, destroying both his boss and the Arkansas. Once everything finally ends, the siblings, Reaper and Samantha, return to the surface, the only survivors of the chaos, and Reaper now has the new abilities of a superior human.